Tensions between India and China are not new. The two countries, which shared the world's longest unmarked border, fought a all-out war in 1962, and since then they have engaged in several small clashes. Though since 1975 not a single bullet has been fired along their border. As a result, you can think that there is no chance of a war between India and China. But some recent events will break your confidence, because they suggest that military escalation is highly possible and peace can no longer be taken for granted. Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Talks. I am Fahim, and today we will talk about the current escalation between India and China and the possibility of war between them. If you are new to our channel, please subscribe our channel for new updates. The most recent clashes took place on May 5. Indian and Chinese soldiers clashed near the Pangong Lake in Ladakh. It is believed that the clash took place because the Chinese military had objected to Indian military patrols in that area. Most of the clashes apparently stem from contradictory valuations of the location of the so-called line of actual control, the de facto international border between India and China. And then on May 9, at the height of 15,000 feet in the Nakula region near Tibet, soldiers from both sides came to blows and threw stones at each other, mostly in efforts to induce the Indian troops to move back from the areas they were patrolling. In that clash, no arms were used, but several dozens of soldiers were injured, including a senior Indian officer who was hospitalized after that clash. After a long period of silence along the India-China border, military clashes have come to the front again. According to the Indian government, the Chinese military have crossed into the Indian territory for about 1,025 times between 2016 and 2018. We all know about the 1988 negotiation between the Indian government and the Chinese government. And according to the scholars, the 1988 negotiation between the government was possible because both the countries are equal in the world stage according to their military and economic power. According to the World Bank, India's gross domestic product was 297 billion compared with China's 312 billion that year, while India's defense cost was around 10.6 billion and was also close to the Chinese allocation of 11.4 billion. But we all know that the material balance of power between India and China have changed drastically in the recent years. China's GDP in 2018 was around 13.6 trillion, more than 5 times as India's 2.7 trillion only. Similarly, China spent 261.1 billion on defense expenditure in 2019, almost 4 times India's total of 71.1 billion only. We know that India has risen as an economy and a global power in the last 3 decades, but actually it is not enough compared to China's current economic and military strength. Although it remains unclear that when exactly the relationship between India and China has fallen. Many scholars think that after the 2008 global financial crisis, China has become more confident in its foreign policy. As in the past, China has shown their muscular power diplomacy in the South China Sea. Indeed, some scholars have argued that an impending power transition is underway between China and the United States, the current global hegemon. While New Delhi has also become a more self-confident player in global politics, but its rise has not been of much concern to the United States. So this recent military escalations between India and China is a real threat according to the changing power dynamics of the world order. And you also know that India is the only major power which can challenge China in that region in the future world politics. In addition to acquire power domestically, India is also building a strong strategic partnership with its neighbors and also with China's other rivals, especially the United States and Japan. In the same time, we know that China has maintained a good relationship with its northern ally Russia, and also China and Russia is working together to undermine the dominance of United States in the South China Sea. And for China, this basically leaves only one border issue with its rival unresolved, and it is the China-India border, the actual line of control. And that is the reason why China is trying to pressurize India in that front. And the situation is likely to escalate further. As China and India are continuing with their climb, China will increasingly see India as its only one impediment to its border resolve, because we know that India is unwilling to resolve that border dispute in favorable terms of China. The ongoing competition of the global trading system through tariffs and restrictions on investment, as well as a trend of rising nationalism around the world, will further risk the China-India relation, because trade negotiations are likely to become more antagonistic. Indeed, given that Beijing sees India as as the only impediment of its ambition to dominate the Asia. Because if China cannot dominate the South Asia, it will remain a regional power who can dominate only the East Asian side. But you all know that India is also trying to keep its domination in the South Asia. Finally, all of these events are actually intensifying the possibility of an all-out war between India and China. But it is also true that war will not bring any advantage to anyone. So as far as my concern, there will be more escalation between India and China because they will show their strength. But within a certain time, they will sit down and they will try to make peace between them. Though the peace will not be permanent and the main dispute between the two rival countries will remain unresolved, risking an all-out war between China and India in the near future. Thank you everyone. Please subscribe our channel for new updates. I'm Fahim signing out.